Welcome to Slow News Day with Kevin Clark. I am Kevin Clark. Woo. Very rarely do I get to say that we're going to have something on this show that we never had before, that we know of, that we get into it. It happens quickly in this episode, and wow, here it is. Scott Van Pelt, one of the best episodes we've ever done. All right, Scott Van Pelt, SV Pod, SportsCenter host, all-around great guy, Russillo friend, new puppy owner, from what I understand, Scott Van Pelt.
Yeah, we got the little guy in the room here. There he goes.
Look at that. There he is.
There he goes. So there's this quick story here.
Yeah, of course.
In that chair back there, there's a stuffed animal that has. It's actually cool. Coach Berhalter from the U.S. men's national team gave me a jersey. It says Otis, and that was a week after we said goodbye to Otis, who was a Rhodesian Ridgeback that we had for 10 years, and it was just excruciating, that process. I'd never had a dog. And I mean, like, I don't want to be dramatic. I've lost family members, and this was just different. Like, the level of pain and hurt was just astounding to me. And now we have a new Ridgeback. Now I can't find him. There he is. And so the quick backstory is that we got the dog in Reading, Pennsylvania, and somebody suggested, well, what follows Otis? Well, Otis Reading, and it's like Reading, Pennsylvania. It sort of seemed cosmically correct, and so we're calling him Reading. I don't know what. Like, right now, he's. I think Red's the name because he's pretty red, actually. So anyway, he just got here, and I mean, you fall in love instantly, and that's all happened. So that's where we are. That's where we are at the moment. Kevin is just surrendering our hearts to this little guy.
Beautiful. And I'm sure everybody's seen it. If you haven't seen Scott's tribute to Otis, it is one of the best things in sports television over the past couple of years. I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
So you have an advantage that I don't have, which is that you knew Ryan Russillo in this era. The headshot here, this era. He has said in the past on this show, Scott, that he felt that this headshot was circulated around ESPN and they wouldn't change it because they were trying to tank his career. That was his thought. Tell me what Russillo was like.
Red's taking a shit.
Oh, yeah. That's a new one.
All right. Is that new? There we go.
That is without a doubt. There it is.
Fantastic, everybody, huh?
Whoa!
We're off to a great start. My dog just took a giant dump right behind us as we were talking about Russillo. I think that's it, everybody. I'm gonna take a 20. I'm gonna take a 20.
Perfect television. You do whatever you need to do.
Is that a first?
That is a first. I'm trying to think of who else shit on the show. I don't think anybody has.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think now. I'm just racking my brain.
They might have just gone. They might have just gone and just smiled at you and you didn't know what they were doing.
Like Jim Nantz and Costas had a weird look on their face last year. So we'll just, we'll go through the tape and see.
Okay. Well, anyway, my apologies to everybody for what just happened, but that's the new guy, just letting us know this is his room, and I think he just officially claimed this room as his.
That is part of the process. That's part of the process. This is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell me something about that era of Russillo that we don't know.
I think the thing I appreciate about him is how just how honest he's been about feeling that, it was feeling like an outsider, just sort of waiting to be appreciated. And I mean, I've told the story. I mean, our how we all got going, I think, is pretty well known. I just heard him and thought, this guy's fantastic. Yeah. He's smart. He pays attention, and I mean, I just liked him. And thankfully, there was a way for us to hook up. And there was always sort of going to be this. At first it was just me and my name on the show, but it was really important that he was given equal billing, because he was absolutely as important to the show. I mean, I've been honest about this, frankly, more so in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. But I think that there was always this angst, right, about wanting to feel seen, wanting the the contributions and talents to be recognized. And ours is a tough place, man, because there's a zillion people. And so I think he's always been honest that bothered him, waiting to get sort of, hey, I see you over there. You're really good, but that's always served him, that angst and that grind and that sort of pissed off sort of gear that he's got. I mean, what is he now? I mean, you're talking about one of the top podcasts in all of sports. And world, so it's, yes. Yeah, I mean, seriously, he's yes. done tremendous. And so I don't think it's something you don't know. I think it's something you do know because he shared it. And it's just, so we're clear. I don't do a whole lot of saving people's pictures to correspond to their their name and my contacts. Yeah. Now, let me get you up there close in with. Wait a minute, I don't want you to see his number there. We got to block that out. Yeah, we getting that?
There it is.
I got the full Russillo experience there with that nice little side part. Hey, look, I for a while was pretending like I had hair. There's some pretty sad moments in my ESPN days before I had to abandon ship. So I'm nobody to make fun of a hairline, but he got there in time. But and one other thing, honestly, about him, Kevin, that's important to note is that when we were doing the show together, it's interesting. You do a 2-person interview show and you get an 8, 9, 10-minute segment. That's not a lot of time for 2 people that have maybe competing agendas. And I don't mean competing against each other, but what I'm interested in and what you're interested in might not be the same thing, right? So I have some serious stuff. He's got some serious stuff. And then inevitably we'd have this throwaway at the very end. And then you've got 2 minutes left with Vince Vaughn or an athlete, and it would inevitably get fun and funny. And he helped me truly grasp the idea of start with the fun. Because when you start an interview, I don't care who it's with the fun stuff, maybe they come in with their guard up, but immediately the guard drops because now we're just having fun. And then we can get to the serious stuff in a way where it's going to be so much more interesting. And so I owe him a ton for how I think he opened my ideas to just the notion of the path. It doesn't have to be serious. Okay, let's have some fun. No, why do that? Have fun at the start. And then the serious is just a more enjoyable product.
That's amazing. Did you, by the way, you mentioned the hair situation. Did you see who made the decision today?
Is that real? I saw it's LeBron. Real. Is it? I don't believe anything I see on the internet.
He put it on IG. It's out there. At ESPN has tweeted it.
Well, of course they did. It's LeBron. If he tweeted out a bowl of cereal, we tweeted out. Everyone, I've said this forever, everyone arrives at their own pace. And sometimes it takes a while. I told Tiger Woods on SportsCenter, look at me. I am your GPS, okay? This is where you're headed, brother, whether you want to admit it or not. And he is still fighting furiously against the encroachment of that bald spot in the back of his head. So if LeBron got there, good for him. Because he's got that enormous beard. Yeah. And I mean, he's built like a Greek god. So it doesn't make any difference what he does. He's gonna look, better than most. I mean, look at me. I'm freckly and bald, lumpy head. I look like shit no matter what. I just gave up.
Yeah, I think it's not going to change LeBron's outlook in life too much.
Probably going to be okay. Probably still going to have a B. The one B next to his name.
Hey, you mentioned Tiger. I've seen you say in the past, like, Tiger roasted you for missing a belt loop. Like, when you and Tiger get together, is it a roast fest a little bit, Scott? Never ending.
It's always been that way. But that's just so we're clear. That's not specific to me. I mean, he busts everybody's chops, and then he knows, and he enjoys. But the beautiful thing is, if he knows you, and we've known each other a long time, you can go right back at him. I mean, he's not the guy that wants to be like, haha, you stink. But then you turn it around on him, and then he gets salty and storms off. No, he's not. You can definitely bust his chops, and it's always been like that. But I mean. I've known him since he was a freshman at Stanford. It was 1995. I've said many, many times, if not for him, there is no me. And that's a fact. I mean, the fact that I was adjacent to what he was doing and was able to have some interviews with him throughout the years, everything that's happened in my life. led me to a moment where my new puppy took a dump in my office on your pod. And so I think really you should thank Tiger, because if not for him, none of these magical moments would happen. But yes, it's always jokes, but at the root of all of it is a professional friendship. I'm always careful to frame it that way. It's a professional friendship. We have not vacationed together. You know what I mean? We don't summer together. I've not been on the yacht. It's not like that. But we've had a great, very cordial professional friendship. I
want to talk about football because this is supposed to be a football show. Okay. It's also a dog shitting show. It's whatever it needs to be.
That's why you're so good.
It takes what it takes.
You're so good.
It takes what it takes. I heard you on your pod yesterday, and the entire SV pod Extended Universe, because the Bear and Stanford Steve also have a great college pod on Fridays. Yep. I enjoy it all. But I heard you made a point I thought was interesting, which is with Tua. It's either you're Tua non and you're all in, or you think he stinks. And I'm wondering what the future of this Tua discourse is, because he looks pretty good. There's going to be some bright moments. I've been higher on the Dolphins. I picked them to make the playoffs than maybe most people. But it seems to me, Scott, that the conversation around Tua has gotten so toxic that it's almost like we can't even talk about the player anymore.
I don't get it. I don't know why it happened, honestly. I don't know. Is it? And I haven't deconstructed it, but I mean, we could sort of do that here, I think. Is it because he was so well known at Alabama and played in big time moments that we knew him well, and then he landed with a team has been waiting a long time to find that guy? I mean, you could say reasonably since Marino. I mean, it's a bit like Denver, isn't it? With Elway, you've been trying to find the person. And so for the part where I have the disconnect is, so you were going to tank for Tua, then somehow you got him anyway. And then he stinks. But why does he stink? I mean, the whole Flores ownership situation was totally, was untenable for anyone to function, I think, or to thrive in. And so now perhaps those clouds clear, right? Like those South Florida storms pop up, then all of a sudden the sun comes out. Feels like the sun's out. And now you've got Tyreek and you've got Waddle and speed to burn, and Tua throws for 469 and 6, but also in a game where some mistakes are made. I feel like it's going to be side by side. The brilliant and the mistakes will be side by side, and the brilliant will serve to embolden the Tua people to say, see. But then when he throws one that maybe his arm strength was it an issue? Maybe he was rushed and he got pressured. And he kind of floats a little bit, but no one cares. They're going to say, see, he doesn't have that level to be the guy. Every quarterback that's not Mahomes or Rodgers or Brady or now Allen, and I could keep going because there's more. I mean, I don't know. Jalen Hurts in the first half was sort of a video game on Monday night. But you don't know where the line under those guys drops. Who gets in that truly elite club? There's a chunk of quarterbacks that all you want them to be is good enough to give you a chance on Sunday to win games. And I think Tua is that guy. But if you don't say that he's great, then the people that are in Tua and they want to fight you. But then if you say, well, he can't be the guy, or like didn't Rosillo say, I'm afraid he's a backup. Well, then they've got to kind of reassess after a Sunday. Right. And I don't feel like there's any quarterback that has a pick a lane where it's either got to be he's truly elite or he sucks. It's strange to me how that goes. And so I just watch the games, and I loved him at Alabama. I mean, look what he was willing to go through. He's willing to go through that, whatever that procedure is called on your ankle, to get out there as quickly as he could. He broke his hip, for Christ's sake. Like, what do you want? Old people break their hips. You know what I mean? Elderly people have broken hips. He had enormous person fall on him at Starkville, Mississippi, and he broke his hip. I don't know. It's fun conversation, and then Sunday just gives us more to chew on. But I'm with you. Particularly after this start where Cincinnati looked iffy. I was really high on the Colts, and they got to sort some stuff out, man. I mean, they had 216 yards on Sunday. It's early, but I mean, there's enough recent data to say you start 0-2 and you put yourself in a spot that's pretty tough to get out of. So I don't know. This Sunday with Buffalo coming in is going to be a blast because Josh Allen and the Bills. I don't know, man. They feel like, I said to Brian Clark, it's like the Neo in the Matrix bit where it's all just slowed down and he's grabbing the bullets out of midair and just, he believes.
I spent some time with Josh and Ken Dorsey in August, and I was astounded. Like, it's just a machine now. It runs itself.
Yep.
I mean, Ken Dorsey's really smart because he's done a lot of different stuff since he was at Miami, but like they understand the grasp of that offense. I want to ask about another big game this weekend, and it is Packers-Bucks. And I'm curious, it's two quarterbacks who've been in our lives seemingly forever, seemingly since Russillo had hair. I'm curious, as someone who chimes in on the sports world every single night, what do you think it's done to the sport to have what I call them forever quarterbacks, where they start and they just start for 20 years. And it's changed everything about the way we view the position, the Sunday afternoons, these guys, their legacies, whatever you want to call it. It's changed everything to have these guys in our lives for so long. How do you process that as someone who observes it every single day?
I thought about this a lot recently and not surprisingly, it goes back to Tiger this summer at St. Andrews. And he walks across the Swilcan Bridge at St. Andrews, and he does have the bald spot, and he's got the limp because of the accident, and he's got tears in his eyes, which, man, it takes a lot to move that dude. But it's the reality landing in his lap and I was there in 2000 when he finished off the slam, and you realize, Jesus, that was 22 years, like that, right? And then Serena says goodbye, or maybe not, and you realize how long she and her sister have been part of your life, paying attention. And those two forever linked, right? You're Black, you're in Southern California, you play country club sports, and you're not accepted maybe initially. And you've got parents that say, my kids are going to reinvent this, and people roll their eyes, and then they do, right? I mean, it's just incredible what Tiger and the Williams family did to their respective sports. And they've been part of our lives all this time. So is Tom Brady, in a sport where you don't last this long. I've done this 100 times on SportsCenter. Pull up a picture of George Blanda. Bless his heart. I mean, George Blanda, when he was in his 40s, looked like the Marlboro Man. I mean, he looked like this, someone's peepaw. Tom Brady's Tom Brady. It's not possible to do this and continue this level of excellence. At some point, it has to be over. And Rodgers is different because it hasn't been as long. And Rodgers, there's interesting conversations about, man, they won that one, and you thought certainly there'd be more, and they hadn't been back. And it speaks to how hard it is to win. But the question you asked is just about having these people in our lives. And it's the same with LeBron, who you asked me about earlier. Certain people who trick you into thinking time's not passing. And at some point, it hits you that, wow, time actually has been passing, and it has with me too. And so when you process that, it's heavy because, I mean, you're a young guy, and I'll just not warn you, but I mean, I've been really lucky to do this for a long time. But this summer, I thought about sort of the end of the runway and the finish line. And I don't know how long I get to do this. I'm grateful I get to now. But when people like Brady step away, it'll make me realize, shit, he started around the time I started at ESPN, and look how long we got to do this. Well, at some point, somebody at ESPN is going to come and, coach wants to see you bring your playbook, and you go, all right, well, I mean, it beat what I was doing before. I guess I'll get a podcast. Oh, wait, I have one. But you know what I mean? It's just, it's crazy that they've been at this level for this long, because if you put the list of others who had moments during that, like Kurt Warner had a moment, right? And, Drew Brees had lengthy moments, and you could just, you could layer them. All these people that coincided with that went away, who had great runs. But the fact that a Brady run continues, and that, Rodgers he's fascinating because he's just a different dude, as we all know. But I think he'll do it longer than he thinks he'll do it for, because no one ever thinks that they're gonna leave when they do, right? Because if you're really good at this still, what are you gonna go do? Something else?
Yep. And if you're at that high a level, I think that he puts on a little bit of I don't really care about this. I'm a little bit above this kind of thing. He is
Rodgers?
in love with the sport. Yeah. I think he's in love. I think he's in love with the sport, and that's why you get to that spot. There's a writer named AJ Liebling who wrote about boxing in the 50s, who had a line about Joe Louis I think about all the time that relates to this, where he said basically he found himself rooting for Joe Louis when he was in his late 30s, because he realized subconsciously that if Joe Louis keeps winning, he's still young. The writer himself is still young. And the older I get, I'm in my 30s, and it's like, Rodgers can't retire. Brady can't retire. No. That means that I'm old. And it's just funny how you process that as it goes along.
It's so real. I mean, again, in 2000, I was, I had a sweet flow, okay, of hair, and I'm standing at St. Andrews reporting on Tiger winning the Slam. And now here he is, body is got a fused back, a bald spot, a leg that's, he almost lost. And it's like, Jesus Christ, he's 40 something, I'm 50 something. You blink, brother, and I'm telling you, it happens. And so it really is amazing how sports stars staying around, to the point you just made about Joe Louis, trick us and allow us to believe that we're still young men or young women. And, eventually we're not.
We get you out on here with a thing called Club Kevin. It's our Hall of Fame. You induct whoever you're feeling right now. It could be somebody you're watching on TV. Could be a movie you just saw. It could be an athlete you're feeling right now. It doesn't matter. Last week, Howard put Sark in. Anybody in the world you want to induct into our Hall of Fame this week, Scott?
Stanford Steve.
Yes.
Stanford Steve goes to the Hall of Fame, and here's why. This takes us back to Russillo, sort of goes full circle here. Russillo and I were really lucky. We got to do something we really liked. And I remember they did this, they commissioned these people that do studies, like audience sort of studies, to kind of get a sense of what we were and what our appeal was. Because, Mike and Mike was a monster. And we were always just sort of this other thing that the execs didn't get. Okay.
Right.
But we didn't care because we thought it was good. And it's been all these years later, and people still have an affinity for what we did. And Ryan and I have always talked honestly about how much we appreciated that. And I mean, we've got our lane, he's got his, so things have continued on. All of this is going to get to Steve. Steve came into my life as a result of that show. And the thing about Stanford Steve is this: when I got the opportunity to do a sports center that was just me, I said, well, I need Stanford Steve to come with me. And they said, well, what does he do? And I said, I don't know. He's just going to be Stanford Steve. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And I said, you don't have to get what it means. I just need him to be there because he's great company. He's a great audience. He's one of the most, truly one of the most encyclopedic sports fans I know. Like, something comes up, that'd be the 94 NCAA tournament. Like, that was at West Regional in Phoenix. You remember? I'm like, no, I don't remember. He does. Oh, by the way, his last game he played in was the Rose Bowl, because Stanford Steve, he played at Stanford. He was like the number one recruit coming out of high school. And every now and then, Russillo and I would get going glory days talking about our high school sports. And we were both decent athletes. This guy was a 5-star recruit, and he never big times anybody. He's the most loyal, supportive friend you could ever hope to have. And he's just the fucking best. And so if there's a Hall of Fame and I get to put someone in it, I put Stanford Steve in it. I wish everybody in their life could have a friend that made you better, that kept you honest, that called you on your bullshit, and just was there, whether it was raining or the sun was out. Didn't matter to him. Like, he is absolutely the best. So I nominate Stanford Steve.
Scott Van Pelt, this was amazing. This was the first that we know of dog shit in the history of this show. Thank you so much for coming on Slow News Day.
You're great at what you. You're great at what you do. There's a lot to consume out there, but you're putting out really interesting, fun content. So I was very happy to get the invite, and I'm really sorry that my dog took a dump in the middle of.
Please don't be. We have our trailer. I'll say that.
Fantastic! What a day! It's off to a great start. Thank you, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.